The government is saying that a catastrophe is coming. I mean, that's some big words, and that they're doing a lot of tests on the banks, stress tests, and they're saying big problems are coming. But do we have to believe that? We have to do a little bit of our own due diligence to see if there's any water in what they're actually saying. So let's try to work through that, poke some holes in it, because I think that there is a lot of trouble that people are just not paying attention to in the market right now, but they're just throwing care to the wind. But let's take a look and see how it is behaving right now, because I think you guys are going to love this. So, the Federal Reserve, this is the US central bank, the reserve currency of the entire world. The Federal Reserve thinks catastrophe is coming for US businesses. So they just did this report and they came out with researchers at the US Central Bank just published a paper warning that a historic surge in the percentage of distressed American companies could worsen the fallout of the Fed's inflation battle. Wow. Plainly said, they said that high borrowing costs could cause a huge number of companies to crumble. The share of non-financial firms in financial distress has reached a level that is higher than during most previous tightening episodes since the 70s. Whoa, yeah, well, we know that, right? The rates have gone up that much. It's possible that debt-ridden companies will avoid spending money on new developments or facilities, hiring, or production. Well, duh. If the cost of money is that high, if interest rates are that high, of course you're going to see a slowdown in borrowing, a slowdown of reinvesting. Of course you're going to see that. Come on, guys. So the full extent of the damage the article had brought out, the full extent of the damage remains to be seen. But as of now, the central bank authors say that 37% of firms are in trouble. 37%. I just want you to try to imagine, that's their words, not mine. Imagine if 1/3 of all the businesses in your town just closed down. 1/3 of people can't pay their mortgage. 1/3 of people can't eat. Just think of what that would do. Unbelievable. That would make the great financial crisis look like a picnic. 37%. Unbelievable. So that's what the article brought out. Now, look at this. This is an article on Kitco. U.S. biggest banks can weather a severe recession. So they're doing their stress tests, and they can adjust their stress tests every single year based on whatever conditions that they're seeing at the time. Now, let's take a look at this. All 23 of the U.S.'s biggest banks are positioned to weather a severe recession scenario. The only part of that I would have to jump in and say, guys, there are thousands of banks in the United States. I think it's around 8,000 banks, but they're telling you 23 of them are safe. Now, I know they're the biggest ones, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and stuff. I know that it's the big guys, but still, we've had some of the largest banking collapses just a couple months ago in the history of the United States. And together, the amount of dollars lost in the banking crisis in 2008, 2009 was nothing compared to what was lost this spring. Let that sink in for a moment. And now they're telling us only 23 of the banks are safe. So look at this. Despite total projected losses of $541 billion, let that soak for a second. The 2023 test examined a severe global recession, 40% decline in commercial real estate prices. Yeah, I think 40% is very, very easy for that to happen. We did other articles on commercial real estate and how commercial real estates in a lot of areas are down 50, 60, 70%, especially places like San Francisco. So this is going to be very easy for commercial real estate to drop 40%. 10% unemployment rate, totally possible. A jump in office vacancies, well, they're all very high already, and a 38% decline in housing prices. You guys, you know that housing is already down a very large percent, and a lot of areas, even around where I am, you're having a 38% decline already. So where does that 38% of properties actually come from the most? It's the highest cost properties. That's the ones that are getting hit the most. Number one, liquidity is squeezing up. Banks do not want to lend to them. They don't want to give you a $5 million mortgage based on the fact that you have a pizza delivery company and you don't have a lot of history like they were doing before. So the expensive properties are going to take a hit. Also, a new mayor just came in. They want to increase taxes on any property over $3 million. That'll push prices down again. So the ones that are going to do well are the bread and butter housing built for real working families that will align with their incomes in cities that have that. Now, generally, in North America, Canada, and the United States, cities under $1 million, they're going to do a little bit better than the massive, huge cities. And the bigger your home, the more it can fall. That's the general rule that I want you guys to follow. So yeah, 40% decline in commercial real estate, 38% in regular housing. Very, very easy. $120 billion in credit card losses. Oh my God. You guys, when you see those numbers, I know that we are all, like, what's the number? Numb to the numbers that are so big, $1 trillion, $100 billion. It's massive. $120 billion in credit card losses is what they are. Let's use their word. Total projected losses. So $120 billion in credit card losses and massive drops. This is very, very likely. Now, they did another study. Close to 190 banks could collapse. 190 collapse. Remember, this other article here said that 23 of the US's biggest banks are going to be okay. Yet the next article will say 190 banks could collapse. This is very, very likely. In the last recession, thousands of banks went under as well, the medium and small banks. So when we see news like this, I have to ask you, what are you doing about it? Are you preparing yourselves? Are you in the United States? Are you in Canada actually doing something about this? And do we think that people are paying attention to this, or are they throwing caution to the wind? Let's take a look at Canada. Canada's consumer credit absolutely gone crazy since the 70s, going up to the moon, no stopping. Let's just go back in the past 5 years. Of course, when there was some shutdowns in 2020 and 2021, they did not have to borrow as much. Money was getting mailed out to them. But look at what has happened since 2021. Inflation caught up, and inflation has just killed people. It's now at record highs for consumer credit. Let's take a look at, these are credit card balances in the United States. For the very first time in history, it's actually just over 1 trillion. It hit 1 trillion now. $1 trillion in American credit card debt. Unbelievable, right? Canada, very, very high consumer debt. Now, if we want to go over, let's take a look. Are people afraid? Let's look at the stock markets. So the stock markets have something called CDS, or credit default swaps. And now these credit default swaps, just so that you know what that is, it's insurance. So if you're afraid that your stock portfolio is going to drop, banks can use and buy these as insurance policies to guard them against massive drops. So when there is a tough market, the price that people are willing to pay for that massive insurance goes bananas. Let's take a look. October 24th, 2022, massive fear in the markets. Look at that. The price of the credit default swaps went to the moon. Now look at where they are. They're flat. This was the same price that people were paying in 2021. What on earth are we talking about here? This is crazy. Okay, let's look at the United States. How are they doing? Well, back in May, it went quite high. And now look at this. The credit default price has dropped like a stone out of the sky, like a meteorite. Well, take a look at that. People aren't afraid at all. So what's happening to the NASDAQ? Let's take a look at the NASDAQ in the United States and look at what it is. Prices have been surging. They're up 35% from their lows in August of 2022. Unbelievable. But please note that this is like a petulant child. Let's take a look at 2000 before there was a drop. Notice the line and where it intersects. In 2000, NASDAQ at 3,800. Please note over here, we had to get all the way to 2013 for the price to recover. Please notice that. If you would have bought it in 2000, you would have had to wait 13 years to recover your money. So though it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, okay, you would have had to wait 13 years. Now let's just pretend that you did it in 2007. 2007, 2,800. How long would you have had to wait? You would have had to wait till November of 2011. 4 years you would have had to wait to recover from that. So remember, it does go up and down. But imagine you bought it in 2000 and had to wait to 2013 for it to recover. Huge. Now look at the spike that we are receiving in the past year. It has gone up, 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 up this calendar year like a machine. But David, you just told me that the US 23 banks are safe, but 190 might go under. Yeah, absolutely. But credit card usage is going crazy in Canada and the United States. Now let's take a look at household savings. Where are people getting their cash? Where are they getting their money? Well, in Canada, where I am, look at the savings rate. It is just above zero. This is some of the worst numbers that we've had in history since we started looking at this back in the 50s. Unbelievable. So it's clearly not savings. Let's check out the United States. The United States has information going back to 1959. Let's take a look at that. I mean, the numbers that we are getting right now at 2.7, where else did we ever see that? Okay, we saw it in 2005, and that was the only other time. So we're at like record low savings in Canada and the United States. We're at record high amounts of debt, and we have record low amounts of insurance being bought on your losses. Unbelievable. How can all of this be happening at once? Are we all losing our minds right now? I kind of think so. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd like to know. So if we see this, remember that there's a sentence that comes, pride comes before fall. And that old proverb says, if you're too conceited or self-important, something will happen that makes you look foolish. I don't want to look foolish, and I hope that you guys don't want to look foolish either. This is my main concern of where we are in today's market. This is kind of scary for me. So if we take a look at the prices in Toronto, where I am located, now you guys know I invest all over the place, but where I live in Toronto, home prices just this year have gone up from 980,000 up to 1.1. It's recovered more money that it has lost in the past 12 months. Have we lost our minds? In the past 2 years, though, it does look a little bit easier. Average price was 1,286,000 if we look back, and it's only up to 1.1. But it's as if people have just shrugged off interest rates completely, and somehow people are affording it. How are they affording it is your next question. I did an entire video on that you can look up on the negative amortization mortgages, 70, 80, 90-year mortgages. Unbelievable. We have one client at 101 years on their mortgage. Unbelievable. But remember, that is only a band-aid. It can only happen in the middle of your qualifying periods. So within 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, you're going to come up and your payments are going to go from $3,000 a month to $12,000 a month. And that's when you're going to get whammoed. So this is going to come for a lot of different people, but people are still bidding up the prices of homes. Again, the Canadian reason and the Canadian fallacy behind all this is, oh, immigration, immigration, immigration. Please do not worship at the altar of immigration. That is not the answer to everything. Here's the problem. 1 million people came to Canada last year. Look at the United States, coming up 400 million people. They only take in 2 million. Canada is a little spit of a nothing of a country, and we brought in 1 million. Think of the city of Montreal that has 1 million people living there. Think of the water towers that have to be built, all the electrical lines, the power plants that have to be built for electricity, water treatment centers, all the pavement, all the buildings, the hospitals. We're not building any of that. We're bringing people in. We have no housing for anybody. We have no hospitals. We have no more roads. We have no more nothing. This is a big problem. So it's great to bring in immigrants, but we have to be able to build stuff up. So a lot of the reason why people are not keeping up and they're not being able to do it is inflation is killing them. So they're saying, well, immigrants are coming in, so they're going to keep pumping the prices of homes up. Did you not see what the prices of properties that I just showed you? The average, this is condos, homes, townhomes, everything. The average is 1.1 million. So unless you believe that every immigrant coming to Canada comes with their pockets with $400,000 in cash, in addition to that, they have a job for $400,000 and are going to qualify at 8 or 10% mortgage. If you believe that every immigrant coming like that, then I agree with you. I think that's right. But if you look at the numbers, the majority of our immigrants are coming from China and India, and they are not coming. Many of them not with the skills and not with the money that is needed to buy these homes. So only one of those two statements can be right at the same time. So we have to make sure that we're digging into things a little bit deeper. Home prices continue to pump up in Toronto right now, where I am. And if you want to look at a little bit of the behavior, I mean, this is the same if we're looking at Vancouver, Montreal, if we're looking in Oregon, or if we're looking in Miami, it's the same everywhere. People now overpaying for properties, 105% of asking price, meaning if you asking $1 million for a home, you get 5% over that. So you get $1,050,000 over. Unbelievable. So I want you guys to pay attention to this picture right here. This is where I think that we are, and I'd like to know what you guys think. In all of time, you see how they simplified the market right here? They simplified it to all markets. They actually go up and they go down, and they go up and they go down. We also covered this not too long ago when we were showing you the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ goes up and down, all these patterns. This is on a 1 year. Let's look at a 5 year, up and down over different patterns. If we look at the maximum, look at 2000, massive swing up, down. We are familiar with what happened in 2000. Obviously, 2007, 8, 9, another big dip here, but this barely looks like a dip. But when you're in it, it's massive drops, right? This was a massive drop in 2020. Where was that? Right here. There was a drop. They pumped in a lot of liquidity, big crash, and now it's recovering. So this is what I mean. It's like a petulant child a little bit, right? But when we're looking at the psychology of the market, it goes up and down and up and down. Overall, it goes up because of money printing, but there is always a pattern. So there's always this optimism, belief, thrill, and euphoria as prices spike up to the moon, just like what we're seeing in the NASDAQ when it spiked up to the moon here, went absolutely bananas. Then it came down, crashed, and then it's doing this recovery. Please notice when it goes absolute euphoria, when the prices of homes were going up 100,000 a month, then it crashed down, and then it's trying to make new gains again. Again, well, let's refer back to the NASDAQ, trying to hit all-time new highs again. Is this where we are right now? Are we in this complacency phase where we're in this channel that is right here while it's struggling to make new highs and bring in new buyers? Buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. Remember, this is the psychology of a market cycle. This happens in housing and stocks and everything. But before complacency phase, it drops by a lot. Now, is that where we are? I don't know. Maybe you guys think that we are still in this thrill zone, because this year the markets have been like pumping. Where 2023 right here, look at that big rise in prices. Huge 1 year. Look at that, straight up. So maybe you think that we are still in this thrill or belief. Maybe, at least I can let you know where I think that we are. So I think it's important for us to know where we are in the stream of time. So if we take a look, to summarize, this is not a United States problem. This is not a Canada problem. If you notice, Jerome Powell was just meeting with the European Central Bank. He was also meeting with the Bank of Japan. One big panel. We're going to do another video about that. One massive panel, all sitting together discussing it. And they're all talking. Yeah, we all are sharing information every day. Remember what I told you? They're all on the same WhatsApp group. They're all texting, all right, guys, this is a great idea. I think we should print a lot of money today. Let's all do it together. This brings me back in the day. I remember that I had a friend who owned a gas station, and he owned one gas station. And I asked him, I said, how do you know, like, what prices to charge? Do you get a phone call from the Wizard of Oz behind a curtain saying, raise the prices? He goes, no, I just raise it if the guy across the street raises it. The only reason. And so this is kind of how the world is operating right now. Back in the day, if we're thinking like World War I, World War II, and Weimar Republic, when we were going back there, a lot of countries held on to their unity themselves, and they kind of dictated their own policies. But now the world is so together, I really believe they're all in the same WhatsApp group. They're all sending print the same. How come in the past 3 years they've all behaved identically, all printing money? If you follow all the charts, all the lines would have went up. Now they started raising rates. All the lines are coming down. They all follow. It's incredible, actually. It's like a ballet. They're all dancing to the same music. So we have to be able to see through it a little bit and understand what is happening. If we have in all countries, European, Australia, New Zealand, doesn't matter, China, they're all facing a lot of liquidity squeeze right now. They're all facing very high interest rates. And this is a combined attack. I have never seen anything like it where it's happening all over, all at once. And so when that is happening, that it's all over, all at once, and it's all rhyming, we have to pay attention to what is happening at the European Central Bank and the biggest one, the Bank of International Settlements. I know that the US is the reserve currency of the world, but the Bank of International Settlements is the central bank of central banks. It's the one bank to rule them all. So if you want to know any information, remember, you don't want to just talk to this boss who talks to this boss who talks to this boss who talks. You never know if you're going to get the story. Go straight to the Bank of International Settlements. And they actually now, there's people in there that have written books. They have online presence and stuff, but just no one goes and reads their stuff. So you can go and read the Bank of International Settlements and pay attention to what happens at the Federal Reserve in the United States. They are the world reserve currency. We need to do that. Anyway, that's my tips. Hope that this helps you guys out a lot. And as George Gammon always says, for the out of control central bankers and big governments and what is happening today, we want to give you enough information that can help you thrive in this type of zone. Remember, I keep saying the next 2 years is going to dictate the next 20 years of your life. So thank you very much for subscribing to our channel. Thank you very much for all of the love that you always give. Please leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. And if you want more specific Toronto content, our sister channel has just opened up. Please go there, and we're going to be putting out a lot of Toronto specific information. Wish you guys all the best. Have a great night.